So thanks, Anil, for the kind introduction. It seems like origination is an important topic for you, as it is for us. So let's talk about energy. It cannot be created. It cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. And are these transformations and change of locations that we at Neoflow are for the first time tracking end to end so that you are able to know where the energy you're consuming is coming from. And so, next slide. So we sometimes don't realize the importance of energy in our modern society. It's everywhere, right? So this podium needed energy to be created. Our AV, your choice of food, Bitcoin is secured by energy, everything necessitates energy. And so why, though, is this relevant for DHS? So this is relevant for DHS because today, well, sorry guys, I'm missing a slide. Anyhow, today, there is about $100 billion yearly of energy in form of oil and gas that crosses the border from Canada to the US that needs to be cleared. And so clearing this energy is different than clearing other type of products. And because of the nature of the supply chain, it tends to be very, very complicated to clear to the point that it takes up to 30 to 90 days after the product has crossed the border for it to clear. And so we, with the support of the government, are trying to change this. So this is the current state. We have about 15 participants that touch each barrel of oil across the value chain, about 100 documents generated, exchanged across the different organizations. It's complex. It's all semi-paper formats to the point that some importers, they prefer to pay tariffs than having to deal with this complexity. And so what are we doing about it? We're doing three things. Number one, we're moving away from documents into data, specifically verifiable data. Number two, we're moving from an organization-oriented data gathering to a product-oriented data gathering. And number three, we're using standards to allow all these organizations to communicate independently of what systems they use underneath. And so let's go over it. So number one, we, as Neoflow, we're only capturing information in data digital format, right? Verifiable credentials. And CBP is going to start taking and admitting this information in digital form instead of documents, right? The second thing is we create a digital representation, a virtual model of a barrel of oil, to which I can attach information regarding the type of barrel. I can attach events that happen to that barrel across all the supply chain using a universal identifier that anyone can reference, right? And then number three is the use of open global standards, specifically W3C, the verifiable credential data model, the IDs, and also the traceability vocabulary. So in this minute, I have just a quick demo. This is what the platform looks like. When I log in, I'm able to see all the barrels that I have visibility to because I own them or because someone shared the information with me. And the birth of the barrel is created digitally, either through the APIs of this specific organization that's creating it, or we convert legacy documents into verifiable credentials so that they can go out in the wild. And you can see after you create the barrel, all the information in digital form about that barrel and all the journey that that barrel took with information from each individual organization that touched that barrel with their own signed verifiable credentials. and these are the verifiable credentials underneath, which are the engine of the platform. Finally, at the end of the day, what we have accomplished is a digitization, a virtualization of a barrel of oil, and that's a very powerful concept. It can be used for cross-border, it can be used for trade finance, or our favorite, carbon tracking, be able to attach to the journey of the barrel or the MMBTU of gas, how much CO2, CH4 was emitted. And so I'm going to close here. We are digitizing a whole industry. We're not creating new data. We're not destroying it either. What we're doing is creating a digital representation that is verifiable. Thank you very much.
So I'd like you to talk a little bit about what the funding and association with SVIP has allowed you to do that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, assuming that you have other customers and products. I want to hear a little bit about the specific SVIP things.
Yeah, so I mean, it has been massive because if you think about it, this is a product that it's not a customer, it's not one individual organization, it's a network, right? And the only way to pull this off is to have someone, first of all, that believes that this could be useful, but also they can enforce a whole industry to gather together and say, yes, we want to adopt it, right? So you can use carrot and stick, and CVP uses, I think, a bit of both and has been working very well for us.
Can I ask you a follow-up question about the ecosystem?
Please.
So it seems like if you are helping people to reduce the amount of tariffs that are being paid, then a government or some other entity loses some revenue stream. So is this effectively like you're a reverse Robin Hood where you're enabling the energy companies to be more profitable and the government to be poorer?
I'm not sure I feel comfortable answering that question. They told us not to worry about it. But CVP is in the business of making trade more seamless and more secure, not in the business of generating revenue through tariffs.
What we've generally found in the immigration business is as you harden up one part of the process and make it less susceptible to fraud, that fraud tends to move to another part of the process. And so kind of what I heard you describe will certainly harden up that chain of custody. But I guess what my concern would be like how you're enrolling the people who can attest to the birth of the barrel, and that you aren't moving fraud that might otherwise occur downstream to the beginning of the process.
Yeah. So our supply chain, our industry is a bit different in the sense that it's really a handful of players that are very, very large, right? So there is not really a concern that there is fraud. There is just a concern of lack of evidence just because there's so much paperwork, right? So we do, make sure we do know your business KYB with every organization we onboard. There's a registry. It's all in the open, right? So that's done. But the big takeaway, the big milestone, it's really how do we go from paper, semi-paper, faxes to digital in a way that I'm able to see the whole value chain, right? That's the big step.
We have time.
All right. So the public rarely cares about energy infrastructure until it's not working, like the Colonial Pipeline case. They also sometimes care about U.S. dependency on foreign oil, and they think Middle East when the answer is actually Canada. So what do you do in terms of, do you have a message about increasing reliability in the infrastructure as well in terms of being able to perhaps predict problems before they occur, all those kinds of things?
So absolutely. So once you have all this data and you have the oversight, the overview of the whole industry, then you can see things that no one can, right? So, and with our clients, we're giving them feedback automatic on their own data, right? So that now they're able to see, for example, things like where they're gonna, the refinery is gonna have troubles taking the oil because you schedule a bunch of heavy oil at the beginning of the month instead of spreading it out. So there's a lot of pipeline optimization that we can do. There is also the ability down the road for you to say, well, I know that there's a problem here that's going to impact this shipment 2 days from now. So why don't we reroute everything? Or why don't we switch the slots to have maybe a lighter oil that's not going to be affected and things like that. So 100%, the future is going to be it's going to look a lot different.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.